Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome, Confidence to Cabaret. I'm Heather Jean, and I am so excited because I have a new friend, and I'd like you all to meet Vanessa Raymond, author, speaker, coach. I mean, you do everything. You tell us a little bit about you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Heather. First, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this community. Firstly, because it really drew my attention because I'm from a performance background. I danced my whole life. I started ballet when I was 3, and it was my dream to become a performer. And so I did. I graduated as a musical theater major, and I went on to perform for many years. And then from there, I transitioned from being a performer into the fitness industry, which was kind of a natural progression. I became a Pilates instructor, yoga instructor, personal trainer. And then I also went on to create my own kettlebell certification program. For those of you who don't know what kettlebells are, it's just another workout tool. And my work with my clients in the gym, as well as around the beauty world, I was also qualified as a beautician. I'm from South Africa, as you might have noticed the accent. In South Africa, a beautician is really an esthetician in the United States, so it's kind of confusing. But so working with people my whole life as a performer, going from audition to audition, dealing with rejection, dealing with audiences, and all the such things. And then also working with my clients in the Pilates studio and the gym, and on the massage table and the facial table. I learned so much from them, as well as through my experiences. And I've now brought it all together in my career as a confidence and success coach. So that's it in a nutshell.
I love how people bring what they know, what they do with their experiences, and then it all kind of seems to fit together, even when it's all seemed like little separate paths.
Right.
And
It's
as
never
soon as
is.
we started conversing, I knew. I was like, yes, you get what I think.
Yes, it's so fascinating when you get to know people, and you know a person for what they do now. And then when you start chatting, you learn that everyone has had so many chapters in their lives. And at some point, it all comes together, I think. And for me, it definitely has in this realm. I'm now more in the health and wellness realm than I am in the performance realm, but my heart will always be on stage.
Okay, all right. So I have so many questions. Okay, so first of all, I mean, talking about confidence coach because that's what fundamentally what we have in common is being a confidence visibility coach. What is confidence to you?
I love talking to people about confidence because I think for each one, it can be so personal and so different. For me, confidence is when you understand that life comes with challenges, but no matter what, you can still make your way through to the other side. You can still reach success no matter what obstacles come in your way. I think people sometimes get bogged down and think that when you are very confident, you don't deal with problems, but you still do. And sometimes you do still feel not 100% confident. No one is 100% confident in every area of their life all the time. So I think it's so important to understand that confidence can be cultivated and that it can be learned. And there are tools that I'm sure you have tons of tools you share with your clients. I have tools that I share with my clients that help them feel more confident and be able to get those small wins that we stack from day to day. And as we stack those small wins in whatever area of life it is, um, practice makes perfect. So the more we practice and we win little things and stack them all together, then our confidence grows along the way.
Yeah, and I love that you said that no one is 100% confident all the time because it's not a destination. It's really it's really, during the journey, confidence comes from momentum and actions that we take, and our mindset and beliefs. So that leads me to the second question that came immediately to my mind. And we didn't plan anything, right? Like this is just off the cuff. But as you were describing it, because I love that you have a stage life as well, because we always talk about lifelines in confidence through cabaret: personal life, work life, and stage life. And a lot of times people go, "What do you mean stage life? I don't want to go on stage." But your stage life is, I mean, then we're on stage here. Your stage life is wherever you're showing up. But,
Right.
particularly if you're social media based,
Right.
that's your stage. So how would you kind of describe, you being on stage? It's a momentum, right? It's action, it's mindset, it's all of those things. And then when we come to something like our social media, for a lot of people, going live just blows their mind. And I love it because, I always say to people, come and introduce yourself in the community, go live. If anybody wants to come live, especially if you're afraid to go live. But, you were right away, you're like, yes, yes, I'm in. But so how do you, how do you kind of reconcile that? Like on stage, you have this confidence in, on a real live stage, and then in our business it's the same principles, but we have all of these weird hang-ups. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And Heather, it's a complex it's a complex topic, but really you do learn to transfer confidence from one area in your life to another. And also, I think for me, it was so important to learn that everyone's opinions are subjective. We tend to internalize and personalize others' thoughts, ideas, opinions, when really it's just them reflecting their own insecurities or their own issues. For instance, if someone might, being on stage can be a brutal thing. Being in an audition and I always tell the story. I also authored a book called Killer Confidence. And in my book, I tell the story that one of the auditions that I did great. It felt fantastic, and you go home and you wait for the phone call. And the phone call came, and the director, literally, his words to me were, "Well, Vanessa, you danced circles around the other girls, but you got to get rid of those thighs." Right? Right.
Oh, that makes me so angry.
Right. Right. So, um,
Oh,
in that moment, at that time, of course, I was young too. I had just stepped out of college. I was in my mid-20s. And it was horrifying. I called my mom. I was like, "Mom, I need liposuction or something,
oh,
So that's where we go with that. As we mature, I think we recognize, or hopefully we recognize, and this is what I like to share with my clients and my people and my communities too, is that people can be heartless. And quite often those types of comments, we are not to personalize those things. Because also, if I always like to equate this with the stage, seeing as we are in this platform too, where you talk about cabaret and you talk about confidence. You can go and audition for a part and just simply not be right for it. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means that in that moment, you are not the exact picture of what the director was envisioning or the choreographer was envisioning, right? And I think as I matured and I went through all these experiences, thank goodness, I realized that there is a place for everybody. We all are unique and we are special in our uniqueness. And there's a part in life, just like on stage, for everyone. And it is about finding your role, your character, your part. And when I say your part, your character, your role, I don't mean you try to be something that you're not, but knowing that being who you are is enough and that your role is needed in the world is so helpful in learning about self-image and self-confidence.
I could not agree with you more. I think I love how we're talking about, on, because people can recognize on a stage that there are roles, and not everybody can play every role. And that would be true if you're Meryl Streep even,
Right.
So, right. But it really is about finding your role. In fact, I literally just did a live masterclass earlier this evening. And that's why I'm a little touchy about the thighs comment, because it's like, uh, you would think that when we get a little bit older, that we kind of can put those kind of comments into context. But for most of the time, we buried those. We possibly don't even remember those comments specifically, or all of them at least. And then, but forms our beliefs, and then we hide our thighs or whatever it is.
Right.
And it makes me crazy. And for me, when you're talking about a business, if you feel uncomfortable in your body and you feel uncomfortable about raising your voice and sharing your message, which are the three fundamental pillars that we talk about in with bringing it from the cabaret world, is if you're doing that and you're hiding away, there will be something between you and your ideal client where they won't quite trust you, and they won't know why. They won't think, it's because years ago you had that comment and you're not feeling so comfortable in your body, because thighs are a big issue for me as well.
Right. I love
Right?
to teach that. Yes.
And so, we literally just spent an hour talking about that whole kind of that you can love your body and accept your body. In fact, you must love your body and accept your body now, even if you want to make changes. The two can coexist, right? I can want to change something about my body and have that drive. And kettlebells is as good a way to go as any, right? But I also have to accept where I am, because otherwise I can't connect with people.
Yes,
and
it's important
it's so key
to also remember to understand that people, I was a guest entertainer on cruise ships for a while, and what happens is that people put you on a pedestal immediately. Like we think of superstars, and we think of movie stars, and we think of pop stars, whatever, and we put them up there. But we sometimes forget that they're just human like us. So I think in business, accepting those things about yourself, always the goal is always to improve, and the goal is always to be better. But accepting where we are at that time humanizes us to our audience. And when you're humanizing yourself for your audience, that is when they connect with you. When they have you on a pedestal, it's very difficult for them to connect with you and for you to win that know, like, and trust factor.
Yeah.
Which is so important in any business. And so you can think of these things also. I'm sorry, I can go on about this forever, but the other thing is that we have a tendency as human beings to draw others' attention to things that we feel insecure about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that is a big flaw. That's something that I personally work on with my clients. It is so important because other people don't see what you see. You see deficiencies, you see insecurities, you see things about yourself that aren't perfect. Nobody's perfect, but remember, when you look at yourself on the screen, especially, it's so consciousness raising when you are seeing yourself on a huge computer screen, and you might, I see a droopy eye and a skewed tooth and a whatever. But if I never mention that, no one else will see that.
Exactly.
So, so it is for us to go, oh, you know what? These are my little insecurities. No one else is as aware of it as I am unless I make them aware. So why would you do that? You want to steer clear from that and just show up as your very best self, because people see what your radiance, they see your energy, they see then you create rapport with them. And how many times have you met someone, and you can swing this both ways. Maybe you met someone who you thought were amazingly attractive, and then you get to know them and suddenly
yes,
right? Or the other way around. Maybe you meet someone and they're very ordinary looking, but the more you get to know them, the more beautiful they become to you because of how beautiful they are from the inside out. And these are the things we need to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're covering that droopy eye or covering your mouth, it's only going to draw it. You might as well put like a big pointy arrow at it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Look what I'm hiding. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, we won't do that if we fully accept that. I mean, a lot of people will talk about like, oh, I need to be wearing makeup and I need to have my hair done. If that makes you feel great, then that's why you do it. But if you're doing it because you're afraid that people are going to notice that your skin isn't perfectly even, nobody's skin tone's perfectly even. So if you're drawing it, if you don't accept that in yourself, then there's every chance that somehow while you're talking, start to, you
Right.
know, cover those things up. And actually the easiest way, well, you could either sit on your hands, which is then going to be, you know, difficult for those of us who talk with our hands. But or you can just learn to accept it, and then nobody sees it. Like you say, they're seeing your energy. I love that message. It's so, so, so important.
Yes,
And I
it's
know you do a lot of work around self-image, and confidence, and body language and posture as well, right?
yes.
So what's your process for your posture?
So I always say, as a coach, I'm very unique because I'm from a physical background. And so I actually start my work from the outside in. Both ways, I work both ways. You have to. Like you can't ignore, they work together. However, I do the mindset and the social emotional work after I've done some physical work. And my philosophy behind that is that just like our body language and our posture gets affected by the way we feel, we can change the way we feel by changing our posture and body language. And you might be familiar with power postures and all those things. I actually started this work before I even ever heard of power postures. And if I may, I don't know how much time we have. I have a little story I can share as
Yeah, go for it.
exactly where this came from and where the light bulb actually went off for me. I was working at a Pilates studio in Las Vegas, and I was sitting behind the counter waiting for my next client as a lady walked in. We'll just call her Rebecca for the sake of giving her a name. And I could barely see her face. She had her bangs over her eyes. She was looking down, and she had a very introvert posture. You could tell she was super insecure. She asked me if she could sign up for some Pilates sessions. I said, absolutely. Come back tomorrow. Here's the time. So she showed up, and I sat down with her and we had our consultation, like I do with every client, in which she revealed to me that she had a tumor removed from her neck. So she had a huge gouge in the back of her neck. There's no flesh. So it was just a hole. And so that immediately I realized what she was doing. She was hiding.
Yeah.
She didn't want anybody to notice this. And she had long hair and she hid her face, and her whole posture became introverted because she was hiding. I worked with her week after week, and I was not doing any of my coaching work yet. I was just teaching Pilates. And for those of you familiar with Pilates, it's all about posture and support and, standing upright and being strong. So every day intuitively, I would get her up off the reformer or the Cadillac, wherever I had her, and I'd have her stand in front of the mirror nice and tall, smile and look in the mirror, wipe her hair out of her face, and I just have her look at herself and say, hey, look how beautiful you look, smile, stand tall. So we practice posture. 12 sessions into what we were doing, this was about 6 weeks later. This happened really quickly. She came prancing into the studio, hair cut completely short. She had a pixie hairstyle, and she was walking lively, and behind her was a gentleman. And I didn't even notice. I didn't recognize her, to be honest. And she came and she said, hello, Vanessa. I'm like, Rebecca, look at you. And her husband came straight in for a hug, and he gave me the biggest hug. And he pushed me back, and he looked at me and he said, I had to come meet you because you changed Rebecca's life. And I was in disbelief. I didn't know what had happened. Like, I didn't realize what had happened. But that is where this all started for me, because suddenly I was looking at her and I was going, what happened? And I realized that the simple act of getting her in front of the mirror every day, along with the Pilates and the work we were doing, but making her stand up tall, feel proud, really changed the mental patterns and emotional patterns for her. And so that is where my journey started. And this was back in 2004. So this is where I started realizing how powerful posture and body language can be in changing our thoughts about ourselves and our feelings about how we go around in the world and how we are perceived by others.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a dancer, I would imagine that you're kind of, it's very ingrained to, shoulders back and down and, and head up and, it would kind of be second nature. So
Yes.
you could have easily just, kind of overlooked that and just kind of
Right.
thought, oh, I don't wonder what her deal is. So it's beautiful that you could recognize that. And it does change your life.
It
It
really
really
does.
does.
It's been proven. There's been studies done. They've, done tests on people's hormones and how it works. And it's been proven that if you can find your power in your posture, you use open body language, it actually increases the testosterone levels in your body and decreases the testosterone and estrogen, not the estrogen and cortisol levels in your body. So testosterone, which is your power hormone, literally gets created in your brain if you start just simply being aware of how you move your body and how you move around. And then the cortisol levels get decreased. So it's actually a scientifically proven fact. And I didn't learn this till, just a few years ago. And I was like, oh, yes, I was doing something right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we very often use, kind of stretching and power posing, and we always end a session. And at some point in every time I'm speaking live, I'm doing something with, just stretching out because that's for me in my journey with Cabaret. That's what started was, and I wasn't shy and quiet and shrinking, and so you would never know ever, like, everybody would have said, oh, so, who's the most confident person, it would be me. I was just, life and soul of everything. So it was not apparent. I wasn't hiding, but I even didn't know, I didn't admit it, that I wasn't comfortable until I went to Cabaret. And we had to stretch our arms out, and we had to stroke our arm with our hand. My hand, my arm, nothing dodgy, right? Nothing, it's not, I don't have to touch some stranger, which I'm not have to do now anyway. But, and I wanted to cry. That was my moment. Immediately, at first 5 minutes, I just went, mm-mm.
Didn't you find that with the movement came that wonderful extra awareness, self-awareness? Because once you start moving your body and you are literally touching yourself and you're expansive, suddenly your body becomes larger in space. And there's definitely that mind body connection that suddenly happens when you say you wanted to cry. I understand that. It's also that's that realization of wow, how expansive life is and what a big part you can play in it, basically, almost.
Yeah, it's also, I think, a lot of it depends on our conditioning, and whether we were told, to be expansive. I was always, because I was so loud and always talkative, I was always told to stop talking and be quieter and, shh, settle down, be smaller, don't make a scene, don't make a, I was all of that conditioning was so counter to my nature. And so it was almost like coming back to my nature. It was quite extraordinary. And of course, when you're on a stage, as and as everybody, even if you haven't been on a stage, you'll recognize that it would be very dull to watch a performer who isn't taking up space and owning it. If they were kind of apologetic in their movement, it just wouldn't work unless that was, in Cabaret, obviously we play lots of kind of characters, and unless that was the message you were sharing. But it would be highly unlikely that you wouldn't want to make sure that everyone in the whole place can see you all the way to the back.
Right. I love that you brought that in. Part of my message when I speak on stages is that, I contribute my success not to my skill, because I danced my whole life, but I was not a great technician. My body wasn't built for it, really. But because of the passion for the art form, and like you just said, the actual ability to perform and be expansive and be whatever, that is what in business too, you can equate that with business in the way that you can have all your processes in place, you can have all your systems in place, you can have all your marketing in place. But if you don't embody your offer and you don't embody who you are and you're not expansive with who you are, people are not going to connect with you, your product, your service, your business.
Exactly. It really isn't a fake it till you make it thing. It's a be authentic and connect with your audience for
Right.
real, not for faking it,
No.
not at all. And I think it's all of my group programs have a movement session in it. I always have a second, if I'm doing a weekly session in a group program, I will always have a second session which is about movement. And what's interesting to me is how people get in their head and say, I can't dance, or I don't feel comfortable moving. And I say that kind of sarcastically because that was how my voice sounded in my head. I'm a paid dancer today, and I I had all kinds of problems about, am I too old for this, especially for burlesque? I don't remember choreography, so it's different every time. I have no rhythm, and everybody says, yes, I really don't. But I know what my message is. I'm very clear on that, and I put it out there unapologetically. And if you're doing that in your business, then that is so key. And so often, not only but especially women, we're apologetic.
Yes, and it's part of that paradigm, like you said, with what we grew up. For me, it was that I grew up in a very protected environment. And so I was always very naive and very kind of in my own little bubble and kind of, and so for me, it was breaking out of those limits that I created for myself. And if I could just address the whole fake it till you make it thing, because I also hate that.
I saw the look on your face when I said it, and I was like,
always address it because it's out there. And the way I like to explain it is that I think whoever said that probably meant, and the way I like to interpret it with my clients and when I work with them, is that sometimes when we lack confidence, it helps to emulate someone that we admire or a future better version of ourselves. So I think when we say fake it, we kind of rather mean just imagine that better future version of who you are and who you can be, and then act that until you can internalize it and feel it. Actors, when they get to play a part, the only way they can make it real for the audience is to actually embody it and believe it so strongly that a lot of actors do struggle to get out of that persona after the fact. And so our minds are so super powerful if we can manage to envision in detail what it is we want others to see and be deliberate about it, we can show up in that way. And once you show up in that way and you get the positive feedback from others, because there will be positive feedback, that is like a snowball effect. It grows your confidence. And the more that confidence grows, the more comfortable you are showing up in that way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So my little tagline is act it, feel it, be it. Because if we can find that and emulate that future better self, we can start internalizing it and become it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that how you've explained that, because it is very, very true. It's kind of like if you've said, let's say you've said it's probably a bad example because we don't go to parties anymore with COVID, but well, we do in the UK.
Like you can,
Yeah, but we, if you've said you'll go, so you feel like you have to go, and so you decide you're going to go, but you really don't want to. If you go there and say, "Oh, I don't want to be here," and you're reinforcing that, it's very difficult to come out of that state physiologically and mentally and emotionally. And if we go in and go, "All right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have a good time," and then all of a sudden you've had the best time flew, and it's that, and it wasn't you faking it. It was just you going into that state and accessing that. Exactly. Yeah. What
mindset.
I find what I find interesting when I do movement classes in group programs is people are in their head going, I'm supposed to move my feet, or I'm supposed to move my shoulders, or maybe I should flick my head, and it's like, and I'm saying, no, your mind doesn't get to say anything. Every one of you can dance, like everybody can dance, and
Yeah.
not having it. Everybody can sing. I'm not necessarily on the key that we're used to, but everybody gets to sing. And it's the same with moving our body. And it is very hard for the first few weeks to get people out of their head and just listen to their body and let it move how it wants to.
Right.
And sometimes in movement classes, I end up laying on the sofa and lifting my leg because that's what my body wanted to do, and I'm just exactly. And it's like, oh, how did I get here? Okay. But it's so rare that we really get that opportunity to kind of get into our mind body in congruency and really kind of flowing. And so much of it is in our head. So I love that you're talking about starting from the outside in, and then your mindset will kind of follow suit with it.
Right, right. And like I said, the two work together. I work both ways, but I really start with that because I feel like for some people, they feel like they have more control over their bodies than they do their
Yeah.
their emotional state. So that's just a way to get them out of their heads by putting them into their bodies. And the reverse is true. I remember when you just said about you are always thinking, okay, so this should happen or that should happen. So in mime class, in acting, as a musical theater student, I had to kind of reverse engineer that because my problem was, because I'm a dancer and I'm technically trained, it was hard for me to just move. Move like a child, move like without wanting to create lines or create specific steps, or so that was the opposite end of that. And one of the exercises I loved most that helped me with that is we did like a mirroring exercise where you had to follow and mirror the person, the other person, you were two together in groups, and just learning to move in an organic way again, instead of step or change, step touch, step pirouette, jete, blah. So so it really is about coming out of the head and into the body, into the breath, and just being.
Yeah, and breath is so important. I was talking to a group about stress management the other night, and they were saying, what's your best advice? And I was like, breathe, like just back to that breath, It's free. You can do it anytime. It's not hugely time consuming. You can do as much or as little as you need to. But my favorite is mirror work.
Yes.
I love,
Mirror work.
love, love mirror work. I do mirror work every morning.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And
It
I
is.
can tell when I'm being superficial. Like I can tell when I'm doing affirmations, or I'm talking about commitments to myself, and I'm going, yeah, I commit I'm going to drink more water today. I'm just really not in the mirror. But
Right.
when we get into that, it is so powerful.
It really is. And coming back to breath, it's kind of sad and scary how people need to relearn to breathe.
Ah,
As a singer too, you learn to breathe into your ribs and your back and your belly and your womb and all this stuff, and not realizing how valuable that is. The simple act of really understanding how to fill your lungs with air, because it nourishes your brain and your whole body in such a huge way. So I love the breath. And then yes, the mirror work, uh, super hard for a lot of people because it's
yeah.
tough to confront yourself in a mirror. But yeah, so much good stuff, girl. We
Oh,
got it.
Vanessa, we need to do this again. Like we need to do this on a regular basis. I can't even knock my ear.
I would love
We need
that.
to we need to do this on a regular basis because I could talk to you all night. I do want to ask you something that I ask all of my podcast guests, but I want to do this with you because I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. Okay, so so cabaret can be song, can be dance, can be burlesque, can be drag, can be comedy, can be contortion, aerial, all kinds of things. For me, the definition of cabaret is in a small cabaret setting or venue. So, Dita Von Teese or any of the big burlesque dancers, of course, they perform in these massive theaters. And it is burlesque, but it is no longer cabaret. It's a cabaret style, but it's no longer cabaret. So that's kind of the parameters for cabaret. You have a small intimate audience, and sometimes that's more scary. It depends on how you process that, because you are more intimate with your smaller audience instead of just just staring at the back of the wall and not really taking in any of the audience. You can see they're pretty close to you in a lot of the venues. But if you were performing cabaret, and we'll take dancing, like just dancing, not that that's just, but you know what I mean, like purely dancing, off the table, what would you perform in a cabaret number?
Probably actual cabaret, the song Cabaret. I love Liza Minnelli.
Ah,
Um,
nice. So
or
a bit of chair.
yeah, absolutely. Or you know the song Fever?
Yes, yes, it's
Would
very
probably
cabaret.
be
Fever.
something I would, yeah, Fever. And also, something I didn't touch on today is I've had a lot of vocal issues. So I've had nodules, I've had surgery, I've had blah, blah, blah. So singing for me has become, I've kind of accepted the fact that singing was not meant to be for me. But the song Fever was one that I did perform and I did sing on stages, and I loved it because it's interpretive and you don't have to be an amazing singer to do it. And
Yeah.
so I love character parts, and I think that number really allows you to really play around a little bit.
Okay, so speaking of playing around, then what one prop, like you can have one prop, and it doesn't have to be stereotypical, like with the song Cabaret, Liza Minnelli, you're probably going to have a hat, or a
Okay.
chair. Yeah, but what one prop would you enjoy working with on a stage?
Feather boa.
Yes. What
Absolutely.
color is your feather boa?
That's really one of my favorites. Feather boa. I'm not a prop person. Props have always been the bane of my existence. Uh,
Right.
because, I'll never forget once I was in a tap number where we had to dribble basketballs while we were tapping. It was disastrous for me. Okay.
That's my
So,
version of hell.
yeah, that was, I have zero ball sense. I've been a dancer my whole life. I really didn't play much sports. So, needless to say, she took me out of that number before the performance
Hmm.
because I kept losing my ball. But
Oh,
I love a feather boa because you can do a lot with it. It's very versatile and it's very feminine and it's sassy.
it is. And do you have a color in mind for your
Cabaret.
performance?
Well,
Yeah.
seeing as it's fever, it would probably have to be red and black. Probably.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
If we want to step out of that, I would do all black and white with silver sparkles. I love I love anything sparkly. Everyone who knows me knows that I always have a little rhinestone or sparkle everywhere, somewhere on my body. So I could almost see a feather boa with some silver tinsel or something in it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
nice,
that's not cute,
nice.
but
We do a lot of beading work,
mm,
and we sit there and we all kind of go blind with very strong adhesive to sit and
do that.
put
Yeah.
beading onto things. I love a sparkle, and my bathroom, even though I don't get into glitter all the time, my bathroom always has glitter. It's like
Somewhere.
it's just always in there. I don't know where it comes from. It's like your Christmas tree needles. They're all you're still finding them in August.
I love that I can
Okay.
see a sequin pillow there behind you. You have a little
Oh yes,
sequin.
yes. I
Yeah.
love this because then I can sit and make patterns in it and stroke it, and it's very yeah. It's yeah. I do. I'm a sequin girl as well. I knew we were just going to be so in sync.
This is so fun. Absolutely.
Okay, and now thinking about you today, not thinking about like your whole kind of, you know, you on stage previously or whatever, but you on stage tonight, what stage name would most reflect you?
The word vivacious always comes for me
Okay.
because my name's Vanessa, so the V,
Mhm.
maybe vivacious V. I don't know.
I love that. I love that. That's so
Hmm.
fun. And
Yeah.
I always ask the stage name question, and people who haven't been on stage before will say, "Oh, I don't know." And they again, it's a great example of people being in their head going, "I have to think of something clever or something socially acceptable or something amazing." And it's like, no, get out of your head. You know what the name is. And what's interesting is they often won't say that expensive thing. And which is why I wanted to play with this with you, because,
I love it.
vivacious Vanessa, it's like, yes, yes, own it, right? And a lot of people say, I can't claim queen, or I can't claim, amazing, or, vivacious, and you can.
You can.
And in my imposter syndrome work, I do a lot of that stuff of, kind of, your imposter voice has certain ways of talking to you, and you're not going to get rid of that, but you can shift that. And for me, that is about, connecting with your vivaciousness or
Right.
your queen, or,
It's
and it's
the
that.
larger version of you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the bit where they're coming back to the fake it till you. As soon as you said fake it till you make it, I thought, oh, we need to talk about your stage name. Because it's that, right? It's that, all right, I have this vivacious alter ego that's inside of me that is powerful and fierce and unstoppable and confident. And it's that.
And the thing is, no matter who you are, we all forget that sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it's really good to revisit this stuff. And that's why, having a coach like you, someone who can guide you through these things and remind you. We forget as children, we play and we have no inhibitions, and then we grow up and suddenly we shut everything down. And it's so good to have someone bring that back out.
It has been so much fun chatting with you, Vanessa. I absolutely a door that you instantly went, these are my people. This is
Okay, okay.
Confidence Recovery. This
is my
makes sense for me.
I'm going to be here. So I'm looking forward to just being more involved, and let me know how I can serve the community.
Thank you.
I just love this. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And I want to say to people who are in the community, there are a lot of people in here who understandably are hiding. And, I try and DM everybody, as often as I can to sort of say, how you doing? And people say, my confidence is really low. And I'll say, well, come on live and let's have a chat. No, 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 and I would say, it is nothing scary about it.
No.
There's nothing bad's going to happen. This is a supportive community. This is a safe place where we get to talk about my confidence is 3 out of 10 and I feel like crap, just as much as we get to say my confidence is 10 out of 10 and I feel amazing, celebrate with me. And it's that. It's all the journey that we're in together. So I really appreciate you offering your support and your uplifting energy, Vanessa.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much. And this was probably the most fun interview I've had in a very long time. So I thank you for that. And I thank everyone who comes on replay and watches. Please reach out if there's anything I can do to help.
Yeah, please do. So Vanessa Raymond is available on all of the socials, and also you can message in Confidence Through Cabaret. If for some reason you can't, then I'll put you in touch. But Vanessa, is it somewhere specific that people can reach you other than in Confidence Through Cabaret community?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, social media anywhere. If you search Vanessa Raymond at Denver, Colorado, you'll find me. My email address is vanessa@victoryfactor.com. So you can find me there if you want to get in touch.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. So on behalf of Vanessa and myself, and then I just want to remind you that it is your body. And it is your world, and it's your stage. Take up space. Own it. It's been so much fun. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.